Hi guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. I'm Jim and I'm here with my brother Steve.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back
Yeah,
to week 2 of Corona. COVID 19? Is that the
COVID
COVID
19.
19? Okay.
And we're certainly not making light of it, so we're going to touch on that. But there's some other things happening in the world of sports, and so forth. So we'll touch base on that too. You but listen, yeah, this is kind of a crazy state of the world, if nothing else, right?
I mean,
A virus that's keeping people and businesses and restaurants and everything closed. Literally closed.
let's be real. Okay, in our lifetime, did anybody expect this? No. You know,
Yeah.
we do history, the Great Depression, and everything else, and then when you look at that,
Been other plagues that have eras back in the 1918 was
Spanish
big.
flu, only 50 million passed away worldwide.
Smallpox in the Revolutionary War times.
But the point is, in our lifetime, could anybody expect the absolute shutdown of your way of life as we know it? And obviously, we're all experiencing it. We're
Yep.
all in this together.
All affected by it. No
And,
question.
I don't have any answer. I don't have a prediction as to when this is over.
I think that would just be a couple of sports guys making predictions on how a virus is going to impact us going
Right.
forward, but,
Right.
and we can't possibly do that.
So
But
what
it
I,
is
so what I
something.
bring up, that's why they bring up the Great Depression of people online, the pictures, whatever, footage there was.
Red lines. Right.
Red lines.
Yep.
And you know what? I, I think we're trending towards breadline at some point.
Wow.
Literally. Because all
What,
aspect,
because of the economic impact that the coronavirus is having, not only a medical aspect, but economically and globally, and really.
Absolutely. So,
Hmm.
but this is where we're at,
Yes, it
and
is.
and you know what? We got to stick together. And then the other thought I thought about was the greatest generation, the
World War II.
World War II
Era folks.
18, 19, 20, whatever year olds that
Iwo Jima.
knew how to they're going to either Europe or the Pacific,
Yep.
and the hell that they endured, etc., to fight for
Unspeakable.
freedom.
Unspeakable.
But you know what? The only reason I bring that up, and I'm just trying to make an analogy of
I'm with you.
we all got to stick together here,
And we will.
and we will,
And we will.
and but that's it. That's where we're at. So
But it is something that's really impacted. And like I said, this is a sports show. This is sports with mono and mono, and that's what we love to do. And that's not even happening right now, right? There's nobody's playing anything because of a virus that it may not affect me, it may not affect you, but it can affect others, and who knows how it's transmitted and so forth. It is a crazy time. But we always, even through crazy times, we always had sports to lean on, right? Like saying, "Oh, the Masters is this weekend," or Stanley Cup Final, or something to bail us out of.
it'd
this.
be the Sweet 16 coming up this week or something,
But
for-
this
for
is the whole
tournament.
package, though. This is taking down socializing. It's taking down everything around us, including sports.
Yeah, and it's actually come in phases of, okay, this is going to happen. Okay, this is going to happen. This is going to happen.
But does it always happen in that sequence?
Nah, but
No.
meaning the appreciation of life, whatever. What's it? 3 weeks now, 2 weeks, whatever it is. Right. So another thing for me this morning of reality was when I got up and got my coffee and turned on, the TV. Now, I watch Fox News or whatever and get my update, but I can only watch it for 5 minutes. But I switched to ESPN2. And what's on? The National Stone Skipping Championships.
Thank God there was some sports on. And the funny thing is, and this is no lie, we didn't talk about this in the pre-production meeting. We both saw the same thing and said, "Oh my God, there is a national championship for stone skipping, which we used to do in the woods when we were kids. Where we lived, we used to walk into the woods, find streams and rivers and unspeakable things.
And find that one rock that was.
And we had stone skipping championships of our own
Right.
before I saw it on ESPN, no less.
Exactly.
Funny.
So I'm sitting there saying, oh my God, I'm watching the National Stone Skimming Championships on ESPN on a Sunday morning. And
Stone skipping.
I know, and the NCAA,
Right.
you know, is not on.
And you know what I watched yesterday? Like I said, that's what it's come down to. We were actually going to be watching the Cornhole Championships next week, brought to you by, Smithfield Sausages
Exactly.
or something.
Paula Dean's.
But I watched the 1992 regional final game between Duke and Kentucky, and we've
Yes.
seen it. We watched it.
The Leitner shot.
It was an amazing game. Went
was
to
great.
overtime, and some people say, "How? You saw it once." I go, "Yes, but this was classic. This is legendary sports. This is what you and I came to make sports with
Right.
Mono and Mono, because we saw it all. We know every single play, every player." For how many NCAA regional finals?
Of course, but if we get out of ourselves, it will also be a segment of the population, which is probably going to be large. So, like, if they sat down and they got nothing else to do and they happen to turn this on, they don't know what the outcome is, right?
I guess.
So I guess, certain percentage of the population that watch this, not knowing the outcome,
And we watched.
it's like
the game.
watching it live in 1992. So, you get what I'm saying?
I saw it and I go, I'm watching the game.
Well, we could watch it 170,000
and not
times.
just the last 2.1 seconds, which
Right.
was unbelievable.
Right.
Because the funny thing is, a week before, I just watched the I Hate Christian Leitner 30 for 30 on
Yeah.
ESPN, which is phenomenal.
It is.
Phenomenal again.
I'll
Kudos
grant-
to ESPN.
I will
and,
grant you that.
and it was great.
I will grant you that.
But that's some of the things that, like I said, I'm kind of enjoying some of these old throwback games. Silly thing, I think it was on ESPN. They were ranking the top 64 bracket of all-time greatest college basketball players. And this included, here's an example of one bracket. And I only caught it for 10 minutes. Some of the footage was great. Pistol Pete Maravich,
Yeah.
But the number one seed in one of the regional brackets was Brianna Stewart, and she was going against Allen Iverson or something, So Seth Greenberg chimes in and does all this. It was kind of funny, but these were definitely. I haven't seen footage of Pistol Pete Maravich. Led the nation in scoring, 44 points a game.
Yeah.
44 points a game.
44.
Right. It was unbelievable. But he ended up losing to somebody in there, I think. I don't
For
know.
LSU and.
But that's a kind of a clever way for these guys to, right? It's filling the time, it's filling the void, it's keeping us tuned, and
Yeah, but getting back to our show last week, college basketball, our loyal listeners know.
this would be a Sunday we'd be watching the game right this second, right?
But I want to segue to we got some nice feedback last week, and actually some of our listeners sent in some really good things about that's your perception. Doesn't mean we're right, you're wrong, whatever. We love that fact.
Yep.
But we didn't mention Pete Maravich last week about college basketball.
Yeah.
However, one of our loyal listeners, Jim Smith, threw out unequivocally Lou Alcindor, Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
He was Lou at the time.
So I've been thinking about it all week. So Pete Maravich averaged 44 points. The dribbling, the just absolute ball skill,
flowing
etc.
hair,
Whatever. I mean, pure basketball talent and just off the charts. But when I saw Jim Smith's email, and he said Lou Alcindor.
I watched some highlights of that
I,
this morning.
I gotta say, Lou Alcindor was the greatest basketball player.
College basketball.
College basketball, yeah.
I think we all conceded that Michael Jordan was probably, and not with Jim Smith and our listener and
Yeah,
you and I all said, who is it?
Yeah.
Like we talked about it, and I needed to reach out to some of our soccer fans who we
Okay.
absent-mindedly forgot to bring them up
We
on the
did. We
greatest players.
apologize, but here's the answer.
And-
Pele.
And Pele counts for all time, and I saw him play.
Yeah.
By the way, I had the privilege of seeing him play.
Right.
End of his career, kind of the Willie Mays scenario I painted, but I saw him play.
Okay.
And listen, the younger generation may say Messi and Ronaldo, and it's exciting.
Maradona,
But it's
whatever.
an exciting time for these guys, you know,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
soccer's as big as it's ever
Guy
been.
Ronaldo is probably in the mix too.
I
you
know,
know?
that's what I just said, yeah.
I know.
But you know, we apologize to our soccer fans. We should have brought that up and considered a major sport, being it's the most popular sport in the world.
And absolutely too, we apologize to the national stone skipping contingent.
Okay,
Because
well,
I can't even give you a name.
I'm going. All right, listen, I'm going to be able to top this. I know that sounds ridiculous, but there was also a national championship or tournament for electrical workers, like assembling
Yeah. Oh,
a.
I've seen that. Oh yeah. You got half an hour to wire
Okay.
this.
So now that's ridiculous enough. One more. Highlights, I think it was the 2005 Putt-Putt Championships.
Okay.
Literally guys putting on pitching, you know, little putt-putt things with the windmill and the elephants and all
Sure,
that.
miniature golf type of thing. Right?
And the winner gets $311. And I said, it's on ESPN.
That's it.
And we're not on ESPN?
Oh, he sent it right through the windmill and banked it off the.
It hit the elephant's trunk and bounced.
Exactly.
Those are the sports we're watching now.
That's exactly right.
That's what we're watching.
That's
So-
it. So,
But listen, at least it filled some time. And listen, before we move on, I certainly want to bring up one of our sponsors, Coriano Trucking from Haverstraw, New York, and they've been a long-time supporter of the show, as you know.
correct.
So, Steve, let's turn this into a positive thing and move on, right? We're all dealing with the coronavirus, but let's talk about what has happened. Anything you know noteworthy in the NFL over the past few days about some quarterback who used to play for some team and now he plays for somebody else?
Well, you know, we have to be honest. You and I
Both.
both were under, you know.
We were adamant about it.
Yeah, we were.
I mean, let's be honest. We'll take the left hook here.
Yeah,
you know.
well, he was going to go back to New England, and again, my point was, he, you know, not a first time free agency, et cetera, blah blah blah. Now, the only landing spot I really thought was going to be Tennessee. Okay,
Well, that was the
you know,
line.
and I'm being honest here. Did I see Tampa Bay? No, I didn't. But
I didn't see Tennessee either because they just gave Tannehill,
no,
$25
but
million.
yeah, they
Whatever.
just did. The point is, for the last couple of weeks.
Just so you're thinking this was in the books. I mean, he
No,
just,
my thought was if he's going to go anywhere with the Vrabel connection, Tennessee being in the AFC Championship game, they're ready to win now with Derrick Henry, and they got a good defense. I'm like, okay, that would make sense as a landing spot. And I'm being honest, I just didn't see Tampa Bay as a destination.
I don't think anybody did. If I saw anything, once I started to realize he wasn't going back to New England, which again, and I will sit here saying I was adamant, he's either retiring or he's going nowhere.
I
but-
never thought he was going to retire.
Right, but what you and I talked about before started to creep into my mind. I guess there is something. It's either an ego thing with Brady or Belichick or whatever. He got what, $25 million a year from Tampa Bay.
Or
Kraft would have given him 30. So obviously it's not the money.
something like that.
It's
He got-
something. I think they either one of them or both want to prove they could win a Super Bowl without the other. because that would put him, like we said, in Messier status, right?
Yeah.
Nobody can, Messier can't win without Gretzky. Really?
Yeah.
He pulled off one of the biggest sports miracles of all time. So he is going to Tampa Bay, and once I started to realize he was going, you know where I thought he was going to end up? At the Raiders.
No.
I think I know Gruden doesn't like Derek Carr.
But they're not ready to win now. And so that's why
I think
this
people are
candidate-
starting to think they're ready to win now, though.
No, not Super Bowl.
But now they're going to Vegas, so
Right. So, all right, now that the decision has been made, and I've had time, I don't know, what's it been, 3 days, 4 days? something
Official
like that.
signing, I think, was yesterday or the day before.
Now, the more I think about it, then I turn my attention back to Bill Belichick, correct? So Bill Belichick has ice water in his veins, meaning
I don't know what that means.
that means he is as objective in his mind about
What he wants to accomplish.
what he thinks, what he envisions, etc. Does Bill Belichick think Tom Brady is the greatest thing he's ever been associated?
Yes.
Of course he does.
Yes, he does.
But
100%.
you also have to think about that when Jimmy Garoppolo was still on the Pats roster. Listen, Belichick really, I think, wanted to move forward with Garoppolo because Tom was 39, I guess, or 40, turning 40 by where. Now listen,
I'm listening.
my theory here, that now that I think about it, Belichick's looking to the future, right? Did he expect to win the 6th Super Bowl with Brady? Again, I mean,
Right, and I bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, 15 months ago, he was the Super Bowl champion.
but now that the fact is he's 42, Belichick
He's 43.
is saying, he goes, listen,
Okay, and let me say one thing.
it's over. And let me just finish. The contract that Brady had for the last couple of years with New England was a guaranteed, of course, but to have this loophole, so to speak, where you can become a free agent, and they didn't lock him up for whatever, another year or two, and he becomes a free agent.
Yeah, I see you.
I'm just saying, Belichick, as much as he loves him, is ice water. You know what I'm saying?
And I absolutely do. And I worship Belichick and his record and everything.
But he cuts everybody like Jimmy Johnson would cut anybody.
But Steven, let me ask you this. Was he prepared? If he knew this was a done deal, he was going somewhere else, not staying put. Who's the apparent? Heir apparent.
I think Belichick knew this was going to happen.
Well, who's going to be his
We
quarterback?
don't know that. I don't know the answer to
Cam Newton?
that. No, not a
You know,
chance.
Okay, you're
Not-
ruling that out.
Not a chance.
As adamant as we were
The
about
point
not a
is-
chance Brady was going
My
anywhere.
point is, you don't think Bill Belichick
Has a game plan?
Yeah.
I absolutely do, but I just
What-
don't know who it is.
I don't know.
Who could it be? I mean,
They
What's out there?
Now listen, they drafted Jarrett Stidham from Auburn last year, so he'll go into his second year.
but he knows he's not the guy. I mean,
I'm not saying he
Unless
may
he-
be,
maybe.
but are they going to draft, or is there a guy that Belichick has a heart on that he knows he can maybe trade or get? Okay. Now, listen, it's shock for New England fans. It's absolute shock.
and,
right?
And absolute joyous bedlam for
And
Tampa
listen,
Bay.
the run was unprecedented, obviously.
It was like the Yankees.
However, right?
It's over. I get it.
He has an idea. We don't know who.
And I don't mean when I say it's over, I mean the Brady era with the Patriots, because
I mean the Super Bowl era for them is over. It's done. It's done.
Bill Belichick will never win another Super Bowl. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
He's going to stay and coach as long as it takes, but he will win
He
another
is going
Super
to
Bowl.
think he's going to win a Super Bowl, but he
will.
absolutely not. Nope.
He will.
Nope.
And I'm not saying this year. I'm saying Before he retires, he will win one more Super Bowl.
I don't know. Belichick is what, 68, 69 probably now?
I believe 67 or 68.
And listen,
something.
can he coach till he's 75? And
Absolutely.
If he wants, of
He's
course.
young. He's a young-looking guy.
But yeah, no.
All right.
That's it.
All right, so listen, we got a lot of thoughts on the Brady, and we'd love to hear from you guys.
And if the audience has an opinion about this situation, feel free that you're home, not working, and you got nothing else to do. Give us a shout at Sports with Mono and Mono at Gmail. Love to hear,
Like Jim Smith's email, he's one of our fans, and he challenged all of it, and he provided this big list, and we went down it, and Steve and I looked at each other going, A, this guy knows what he's talking about, and
Yeah.
B, it's hard to dispute anything on this list.
that's absolutely
It
right.
was awesome. Thank you, Jim, for
Right.
that. But listen, what else happened? Free agency, a lot of money still getting thrown around in the NFL for guys that I've never even heard of. Right?
But,
Giants signed a cornerback, and what's his James Blackwell or Blackwood, something like that. Never heard of him.
But I would say
12 million a year.
Yeah, but I would say the next prominent player, I mean, Brady obviously is in the stratosphere of his own. But Todd Gurley
Went to the Falcons.
went to the Falcons. Todd Gurley played at University of Georgia. However, right, obviously busted it up for the Rams for a couple of years, gave him the big contract. However, I think he's damaged goods.
He is damaged goods.
And for the Rams to let him go,
To
right?
sit him down in the playoff run and everything, it
Exactly.
was,
So-
we knew that was.
you know,
But somebody's paying him, so maybe
yeah, but
maybe he
can I
bounces back.
blame the Falcons for taking a flyer on him? No.
Right, but remember, he blew his knee out when he was at Georgia before he even came out, which made it a reach pick to begin with, and he had some success for 2 years,
Yeah.
right? A couple of like a Terrell Davis type year where out of the blue, right? Best running back in the game for
I
a
got
couple
it.
years.
I got it.
Melvin Gordon goes to the Broncos. Ho hum, like that's nothing. They already got this kid, Philip Lindsay, who's a solid player.
Yeah, but you know what? When Gordon was holding out, we were doing the show, remember? When
we
Gordon
were
was-
laughing, like
we
keep
were laughing.
holding out, you know.
Right. But you know what? Melvin Gordon is still a good player,
Yes, he is.
and I think that's a good signing for the Broncos.
Right, and it wasn't. I don't know if it was.
You know,
Noteworthy.
I'm a Cowboy fan. Clinton Ha Dix.
Reunites with his former head
Yeah.
coach, Mike
Well,
McCarthy.
fills a need because McCarthy was in Green Bay and drafted Dix, and Dix is out of Alabama. Dix is
Yeah.
probably, I don't know, 27, 28 by
I'm
now.
going to say this is his 6th or 7th
But
year in the league.
To me, that's a good signing. You know, and back to the Cowboys, the speculation about Amari Cooper. I always thought they were going to throw him the money. He's going to make a. Listen, I'm down with. I think Amari Cooper is a really good.
I know
receiver.
you've said that, but I just haven't seen that greatness that was advertised and that I thought would come.
I do. Listen, the thing about him is he gets a lot of nagging injuries, and I can't dispute that.
Yep.
But he is a top wide receiver, and you know what? We couldn't let him go. Absolutely couldn't. Now Washington actually made a big offer for him, but he's staying. And we franchised Dak. That's the debate of
Yeah.
we've had is Dak. We franchised him. I think Dak.
So it just postpones the whole contract.
It postpones
talks,
for Dak, but Dak has to have a pretty good year.
Yeah, like maybe
To
get
get that
into the
big
playoffs and win something kind of thing. I mean,
Listen, I got McCarthy as my head coach. There's still talent on the roster.
which I'm jealous about, by the way, because I'm a Mike McCarthy guy.
Right.
He's good friends with a Niagara buddy of mine, and Tim Butler, whose father played for the Steelers, and so there's a lot of football stuff there. I'm happy with him too.
Right.
I would have loved for the Giants to have gotten him, but they didn't. So.
But I just think
But what was the? Let me just before Steve. But one more. What was the other monster signing? And this is a guy you and I have ridden and berated him. Philip Rivers, right? To the Colts for $25 million. Woo! That's I mean, really?
Well,
$25 million?
again,
We watched him, and listen, he's going to the Hall of Fame. He's got numbers that are just Dan Fouts astronomical like. Hasn't won anything. But listen, his arm has been steadily going downhill. You could see him lumbering. He always had that sidearm delivery, but now it's sidearm because he can't even put it over his head. 25 million? I would have said, you know what? I'll stick with Jacoby Brissett. I don't need Phillip Rivers to upset this because the Colts have a lot of good players around them.
But back to my Dak point, and I'll get to Rivers. 25 million for a 38 bordering 39 quarterback.
Yep.
So Dak Prescott, when I told you, you know,
What is he? 25, 26?
Yeah, but we talked about the quarterback market, like and what they get. Russell Wilson 35, Rodgers
And we agreed that, you know.
So is Dak Dak?
No, he's not in that category.
He got franchised for 27.
Right.
Right? So if he gets extended, which I think he will eventually, at 33, 34 million, my point is that's a market for an NFL quarterback.
Then what happens when Rodgers comes up in a year or so? 50? Are we looking at the $50 million year quarterback?
And then also, we talked about 3 weeks ago when Rivers was, whatever, jettisoned by the Chargers.
Yeah.
And we're like, is he done? And I was adamant. I said, no, somebody's going to pick him up and make him the starter. Right? So they didn't sign Phillip Rivers for $25 million to back up Jacoby Brissett. Okay?
Of course not. No, he's absolutely the starter.
Right, so Jacoby Brissett obviously has been devalued by Indianapolis.
That was my point I was trying to make. I said I would have stick with Jacoby Brissett but they see something they don't like and he can't get them there. But I don't think Phillip Rivers is going to get you there either.
Well, in Indianapolis's mind, and then if you be objective, it's not a bad 1-2. It's not the worst 1-2 to have Rivers. Let's say Rivers is a train wreck. You still got Jacoby Brissett coming in, right? Are the Colts going to win the Super Bowl?
No,
exactly.
No, they're not.
Right. So yeah, but that's a big signing.
Yeah, that was a big signing.
Right.
So, but look, the free agency market, like we were just talking before, the Giants signing free agents and all these other teams and some guys I've literally never heard of, and they're getting these astronomical contracts in the NFL. Apparently, there's no corona impact in the NFL because they're spending money left and right.
And let me finish on Tom Brady. Tom Brady signs with Tampa Bay, right? There's a reason he signed with Tampa Bay in Tom Brady's mind. It's because he thinks they're going to win now.
Do you?
Bruce Arians is a good coach.
I agree. I actually do think he's a
They
good
got
coach.
Todd Bowles as defensive coordinator.
Which
Means, the defense is good. The point is, they're not done shaping the roster because now that Brady's in the fold, and Brady is obviously going to have the influence of, I like this wide receiver, I like this. Obviously Brady needs the weapons to be Tom Brady.
But Steve, let me just ask one question.
That's what I'm saying.
And this will be my final point on Brady too, because we obviously don't know what his ultimate decision-making criteria was. But it's impossible for me to think he evaluated all these teams in the league and said that team is the closest to a Super Bowl, and I'm the missing piece, and I'm going to go there, and I'm going to. I don't know. I just don't.
He's Tom Brady.
I know, but I don't see the Tampa Bay Buck. We know about them. They were 10th, 11th best team in the
Jameis
league.
Winston as their quarterback who threw 30 interceptions.
I know, and a record
30 for 30 guy.
I know, and a record 6 pick sixes and so forth. And listen, we you and I, when he was the number 1 pick in the draft, said, "You got to be kidding me."
Absolutely,
You got to be
and
kidding me.
I still feel that.
And it parlayed into exactly the career we expected him to have.
Okay, but
But somebody's going to sign him too, by the way.
good luck.
But look, you see how weak the quarterback and Nick Foles gets traded, right? So Trubisky to the bench, and all these crazy things going on. Nick Foles, he was the greatest signing of all time. You know, a year after he won the Super Bowl, and now he gets traded to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
I mean, do they starve for guys like Jay Cutler in Chicago to play that position?
Again, my point is we could throw any name out there, quarterback, not named Tom Brady. And the only thing I'm bringing up once again, if Brady decided to go to Tampa Bay, I take stock in Brady thinking that
Okay.
they are
Okay.
in contention. I'm not saying they're winning the Super Bowl. I'm
No,
saying
he obviously said to himself, they're the closest thing that
exactly
to the Super Bowl.
That's all I'm saying.
And all they're missing is me.
That's all I'm saying.
All right.
Am I wrong? Like, or you know,
I kind of thought the Raiders may have had on the brink that his decision would have been to go to Vegas, and that would have been this whole Vegas Brady, fantasy.
the only
world.
other logical destination I thought was perhaps San Diego because he's a California guy, wanted to go home, etc., etc. And you know, San Diego, they got talent. You know,
They got just as much talent as Tampa Bay. Like
Right.
I would put them, neck and neck in parity as far as each team is as far away as the other team from winning the Super Bowl, right?
Okay.
So it's good stuff, though.
Yep.
So listen, let's move on. Like I said, not a lot to talk about, but one of our listeners, Jim Wall, sent us an interesting fact, and I gave him my response in my Johnny Carson that I did not know that.
That's right.
And Jim, it was awesome. He pointed out that the Rangers drafted Lucien DeBlois before, and Mike Bossy was still on the board.
Right.
What do you think of that? Isn't that funny trivia?
Totally.
I mean, funny trivia,
Absolutely.
right? And certainly New York fans, but hockey fans know that it kind of worked out a little differently, right? The Sam Bowie, Michael Jordan, scenario.
That's exactly. It's probably the only analogy you
That
can
would
bring
make
up.
sense, right?
Right.
I mean, Lucien DeBlois did score a few goals for the Rangers, but Mike Bossy scored a lot of goals for the.
Lucien DeBlois played for the Rangers maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years before they shipped him off to wherever he did, and then he moved around.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, I think DeBlois came back, I don't know, when he was 30, 31 for, a cup of coffee with the Rangers.
I'm trying to remember what number he
But,
was.
to your point, Mike Bossy.
50 goals from his first year to his ninth year? I think the ninth or 10th year. Did he
Right.
have? Might have had 10 years straight with 50.
Just an absolute pure goal scorer.
It was unbelievable to watch, wasn't it?
And again, the Islanders won 4 consecutive Stanley Cups, and when you think of them, you think of Mike Bossy and Dennis Potvin and Brian Trottier,
Clark Gillies,
and Billy Smith in goal, and
Oh, my God.
and the list is endless. I mean, Al Arbor as coach, and so on and so forth.
And this is coming from Ranger fans. We sat there with our jaws to the floor watching these guys night after
But
night.
as
after
Ranger
night.
fans, as watching this, we knew greatness, like as you're watching it, right?
Exactly.
And you know what? The Rangers battled that team as hard as they possibly could. But the thing was, they were good. And then we talked about, not on air, I think off ice, Bobby Nystrom scoring the goal, to propel the 4 cups, against the
Yep.
Flyers, and and on and on. They were just charmed, and and then that segued to Wayne Gretzky being a baby and Messier being a baby and so on and so forth, right?
Yep.
So then when the cup ended, the 4-year streak, it was to the Edmonton Oilers. And if I remember correctly, they beat the Edmonton Oilers for the 4th one, right? And then Edmonton, just boom. That was the next dynasty to happen. Why?
Which was unbelievable.
Because
to
the greatest hockey player on the planet who has lived, right, propelled.
And in all sports, if we say what are the 2 sports, there's no question ever about who the greatest. We'd say hockey and basketball. right? Jordan and Gretzky, and we got the opportunity to watch this. But I think Steve, you and I were talking about. We watched all those Islander games, right?
We did.
We watched the Ranger game, and then we'd flip over and watch the Islander game because it was on New York sports. And
Jiggs McDonald and Eddie Westfall here
Yeah,
live
thank you,
from the
Jiggs.
Coliseum.
I want to tell you, Jigs. Absolutely, but it was unbelievable to watch.
Right.
It really was. But we miss hockey, we miss basketball, all this stuff, right? We'd be talking about it today. We'd be watching the games right now. It'd be the Sweet 16 gets decided, right, by 7 o'clock tonight, right?
Right, and everybody's bracket would have been blown up, and then, there'd be X amount of guys left, like, oh yeah, I had San Diego staying.
Right.
Yeah, right? Right?
Hey, so listen, you know what that means? At least that means the last Final Four was last year. It was Virginia, so
Yeah.
I get to retain my belt
You
as
do.
picking the national
Man,
championship
that's
for
a good
another
point.
12 months.
You absolutely do. You absolutely do.
but yeah, we do miss it, and but like you said, Steve, we'll get through it. But watching some of these old highlights has kind of been a plus. When we talked about that basketball love story, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal the footage.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal footage.
So
But
we had talked before we went into production today, or broadcast, about, okay, now everybody, for the most part, is going to be sitting on your couch, and hopefully cable
works.
works, whatever it is. So, what were some of the movies that you were thinking about seeing, or you've seen 1,000 times, or maybe, let's see again? And again, this is a good one for our audience to feed us back at sportswithmono@gmail.
Well,
I thought you may have had a couple.
First of all, let me start with I think television was the greatest invention ever, right? It puts the world in your living room and entertainment at your fingertips, right? I mean, yes, the light bulb was important. I'm not dismissing that.
Yeah.
But television, at times like this, what would we be doing?
Good.
If we had cabin fever with television, imagine one without, right?
Oh my God.
But it's so funny that you bring that up because you're right. Let's sit down and watch something I haven't seen or I want to see again. If it's The Godfather, whatever,
No.
we're on. Stop what you're doing. I got 6 hours and then we could do something.
Yeah.
But I was telling you, and I brought this up to you before. I saw a movie last night. Same situation. Let's watch a movie I haven't seen. Denzel. Huge Denzel Washington fan, by the way.
Fordham graduate.
Absolutely. And now his son is a big movie star.
Uh-huh.
But I watched American Gangster for the first time.
Sure.
Violent and, real salty and stuff, but it was awesome. And I made the statement to somebody. I said, he that was way better role for him than the Oscar-winning movie Training Day that he won for. He should have won for this. If he won for that, he should have won for this.
Right.
But it was cool. That was my movie thing I haven't seen yet. And
Okay. I'm gonna throw out. Then again, we're in the infancy of this unprecedented time that we're living through. But I was on the couch during the week, and I've seen it probably, maybe 10 times. Serpico.
yeah,
Right? About the,
Undercover.
it came out in 1973 about the police corruption and the payoffs and what was going on. And Frank Serpico was a guy who said, listen, I'm not taking the money, and became ostracized by his fellow.
Which would blow me away. That was the whole premise of American Gangster. The same thing. I go, they ostracize him because he didn't take the $1 million?
Right, because now they couldn't trust him. And you know what? That was a true story,
Absolutely was.
and brought on which I remember to be the Knapp Commission, right? About, the police corruption, where they had to finally address it. And
It was
you
so
know what?
rampant.
Yeah. So, and then what I like about the movie is I'm 8 years old, 7 years old. I have no idea, like, cognizant of what this
Of course
is.
not. What corruption even means, or how
But
to spell
watching
it.
the movie and the setting of it, and the old police cars,
Awesome.
and just what life was like in the early 70s.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that, and hopefully there's, many more that.
Well, listen, there are many more things. When you put on the channel, there are so many channels. You flip around and see an All in the Family, or you see a Honeymooners. It never ends.
Oh,
There's
absolutely.
no starving for entertainment.
Exactly.
To sit and watch an All in the Family is some of the funniest stuff yeah. And Honeymooners, we've seen them 1,000 times, but
Correct.
the lines are incredible. Incredible. So listen, before we sign off, we always want to make sure we mention our other sponsor, and that's Lynch Motors of Manchester, Connecticut.
Right.
But see, we actually do have a notable passing, and again, Steve and I keep an eye on this for people we think had an impact or influence in either sports or entertainment. And I know you know who I'm referring to. State who we lost this week.
Know when to fold 'em.
Lady, and I think I love you.
But I tell you
The
what,
Gambler,
the gambler was.
big.
He was big. He
was
really
big.
was. He was very talented and 81 years old. The gambler was.
Yeah.
But
He had quite a run with some
He's
songs.
big.
He had his own TV show. He
Yeah.
was living large.
he was Garth Brooks before Garth Brooks.
Right, but he
right?
was living like Wayne Newton and Sinatra and all this. He was just playing around.
He
man.
was. Obviously it's Kenny Rogers, and
I've never eaten at a Kenny Rogers Roasters, by the way.
oh,
Have
so-
you?
No. But that's how big of a celebrity he was. If Seinfeld is doing a spoof
An entire episode
on Kenny Rogers Roasters,
Yep.
right?
A lot of good hits. I actually watched. I did a lot of reading on his career, and he came up and he had to play with some obscure bands early in his career, but then he said, "I'm going to Nashville," and he made it big. I mean, him and Dolly Parton.
I was just gonna say the duets with Dolly Parton and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
was big.
and he was a good guy.
And even the first movie, The Gambler, was good. I think they did Gambler 2 and 3, I think. But Gambler 1, I only saw that one. It was actually pretty good.
Yep.
And I thought he was pretty cool. He was like a Burt Reynolds type in the music business,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Good looking guy, and
Yeah.
But yeah, he was 81 years old.
Yeah.
A lot of hits, though.
A lot of hits, and he'll be missed. So that's an absolute notable passing. We wanted to give our condolences to the family and
Yep.
so on and so forth. So
In the entertainment business, somebody like that, like I said, we brought up guys like Robert Conrad in the past. These are people that had made an impact on us because we've seen them in 100 different things.
Totally.
Right?
know when to fold.
We both think we do a best Kenny Rogers. We literally think we sound exactly like him, and I know obviously we don't.
Not even close.
Of course not. But if you think one of us is better than the other, send us an email at sportswithmono@gmail.com. But listen, thanks for joining us, folks. And like I said, we'll all get through this. It's a difficult time, and it's a serious time, and something to be very...
We're not taking this Corona stuff lightly.
No, we're not.
But you know what? If we can provide some levity, some
Insight.
insight, and forget about the nonsense for 40 minutes or 45 minutes, it helps us too.
And I know the old saying is, an opinion's like a hemorrhoid kind of thing, but we're here to just, like I said, talk about things that we're all talking about, and
Right.
and we do it online, and we appreciate you guys listening to us every week. We really do.
Absolutely.
But thanks, and we'll be talking to you soon and get through this, and best of health to everybody out there.
No doubt. Have a good week, everybody. Stay safe and persevere.
We'll
Thank
talk
you.
to you next week. Thanks.